I have 5 kids, and 3 of them have iPhones. So have you ever been in that moment where you're thinking, something is important, and rarely is where you have to get a hold of somebody, but text and call your wife and the 3 kids with iPhones, nobody responds within a reasonable amount of time, and you're thinking, I am paying over $300 a month to provide everybody a phone. Yeah. Somebody answer the damn phone. Like, what is going on here? And it's a little frustrating, right? Just yes or no. Like, I'm making this real simple. How could it be that they're on their phones 24 hours a day, and the one time from one day I need a clear answer from one of them, none of them are looking at their phones or want to respond? It's it just happens sometimes. But anyway, in your personal relationships, it's the same thing. If you're dating, if it's your wife, your friend, your parents trying to make dinner reservations, it's frustrating when you can't get hold of people. So I think we're all familiar in those different areas of what the problem is. So let's talk about some things that will definitely not work and make it worse. Now, forgive the crass language here, but in our company, and we don't put this on the website, right? But in our company, we have 3 core values. Josh is already laughing. So let's do it. So we talk about no assholes, no bullshit, no ASAP. Those are,
Amen.
Some people have mission statements. We have those 3 values. So I'm only going to talk about one of them though. So the no ASAP doesn't mean we're not fast. Actually, we're very fast. Matter of fact, minutes before I got up here, we just all handled the website. So we're very fast and responsive, but the no ASAP part of that, and I'll explain how this gets into responsiveness, is understanding that ASAP is a type of poison to your culture. If everything's always ASAP, nothing really is, right? Because there are true emergencies, but a lot of times clients will do this. I need this ASAP. So we all are trained and have taught ourselves and each other that when that happens, you just ask the simple question, exactly by when do you need this? Oh, next Thursday'd be good. All right, so let me get this straight. You just about threw our entire workflow off for the day. And keep in mind, in a service business, our time is everything. That's the asset, that's the goal, right? We're not a product company, we're a service company. So you just about threw our entire workflow off for the day from everything else that we're doing because you wanted something next Thursday? What are you talking about? So while we can't necessarily correct the client on their use of language, we can ask questions that get to the essence of what's needed. And sometimes it is, I need it in the next 5 minutes, but that hardly ever happens. And so ASAP is actually a very rare thing. And even as the boss, I'm not allowed to do it. I've done it, Josh, correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I think I've used the term ASAP one time in the last 8.5 years. And he called me on it immediately. Something to Josh, something ASAP, and I mean, he just, oh! Okay, so I've never done it again. But the reason I'm bringing that up is, as a philosophy or as an approach, you need to get that part straight so that you're a good example when it comes to responsiveness. Because there's a trust component when you're dealing with people. It's not just about whether you have good character or not, but a trust in terms of, do they really mean this? Do they really need it now? Is this really important? And so you really have to measure and monitor yourself with that sort of philosophy so that you're very clear about what you need and when you need it, that you're brief, bless you, concise, bless you again, brief, concise, and you make it easy for the person to respond. It's almost like giving people multiple choice sometimes. Like, do you want me to A, B, or C? Just reply A, there's all kinds of creative responses and ways that you can do that. We'll talk about some of those tools and tactics in a minute, but having that philosophy of being fast, but not creating drama or an emergency all the time around something that you need. Another thing that doesn't work is being passive aggressive. So you guys probably all have at least one of these people in your life. Maybe you are that person. But I got an email one time from a particular person who needed something and they needed it right now. They didn't really, but they thought they did. And they conveniently added into the email that whenever someone doesn't get back to me immediately, it causes me great anxiety. Come on. I mean, I'm human. I read that and I think, well, gosh, I don't want to cause anybody great anxiety. And then I just think, this is bullshit. What are you talking about? And, so there's the passive aggressive thing. Like, if you don't get back to me, I'm going to commit suicide. Now, nobody's ever said that, but acting like it's just this big emotional deal when it's not. So what happens with a person like that is if you play any level of that game, that decreases my desire and my response time to get, I don't want to, I'll get to it when I get to it. Now, you wanted it immediately, you just got it pushed back for doing that, right? So that's not going to work, and that creates long-term problems. Not being clear is a huge problem when it comes to getting back, because sometimes people, if you type out this email and it's not exactly clear what you need and when you need it, they just think, well, I didn't realize you needed an answer. I didn't realize I needed to get back to you. When you start finding yourself putting a bunch of adverbs in the email, I think maybe just very possibly you might want to get rid of all of that and just ask the question, get to what it is that you need, especially in business relationships, business emails or phone calls. So voicemails can be the same way. You can leave this voicemail for, 5-minute long voicemail, and the poor person listening to the voicemail is just thinking, oh, well, I'm gonna have to listen to this like 3 times to figure out exactly what it is this person needs and respond. So those are all some of the things that don't work. So before I continue with some of the solutions, anybody want to offer some of the non-solutions, things that you've experienced that I know you've never done, that cause people to not want to respond or cause further problems? Anybody?
I have a company that calls us daily sometimes. The answer has been no. It's going to be no. It's always been no. It's no, we don't have the budget. We're not interested. I'm going to start saying it in French, German. And it's a different salesperson every time, but they just don't note that in the file. So they have such turnover that they're not making notes on their clients because it's frustrating. So we just don't even answer the phone anymore because they won't take no for an answer, and it's just frustrating.
So let's talk about that for a second. So is what they're doing building trust or eroding trust with that brand?
Oh, it's eroding it.
Obviously,
for sure.
it's eroding trust, right? So as marketers, we all have to keep this in mind. Any activity, approach, method that we use should build trust in the long run, right? And so what they're doing is they're spamming, they're not paying attention to what you said, they're not giving any space. Daily that's a lot of follow-up, on their part. So yeah, good one. Getting spammed and people not taking no for an answer when it's clear.
I hate when people won't reveal what they want to make it about.
Right?
Here's my favorite. Here's my favorite. You get an email from somebody you've never met in your life, right? And it says about that thing we were talking about, or following up on our conversation.
No.
What conversation are you talking about? I don't even know who you are. Mutag or whatever. What? You don't ever need to use the word just. I'm just checking on you. I'm just trying to see. No, just get rid of all of that fluff and just say what you need, say what you want, right? Is when it comes to people not getting back to you, I would say always give the most generous explanation for a delay until proven otherwise. Let them tell you or let it come out or whatever, but now I realize most people don't do that to you or to me, okay? That's not a common attitude, but I think part of being an example is give the most generous explanation, right? And to what Josh was saying in terms of using, just or very or just, words like that kind of, we think we're making it easier for the other person to read. But in my opinion, what people, especially in professional context, but really in any context, in my opinion, what people really crave and need and want is clarity. You don't have to be mean, you don't have to be rude, but just, to your point, like, hey man, I'm not a hard guy to get a hold of. Just tell me what it is that you want, and if it's worth my time, I'll be glad to sit down and give you the time to talk to you. If it's stupid, I can just tell you that now. And I'd save us both a lot of time if you just tell me what you want, and I can tell you if I think that's a good idea or not. But if you're trying to sell me some new brand of soap or something, I'm good. I've got Dove men's care that I buy bulk at Costco. We're good. So I'm not interested. Yeah. So, but I think people really want clarity. It's okay. And the other thing is, we think people are more fragile than they really are, and so we're afraid to just, What is it exactly? When is it exactly? Just tell me. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. Let's talk about things that do work. And here are a couple things. So let's just assume we're doing activities and we're all on the same page about we want to build trust with people. So we don't want to spam people. We don't want to take the passive aggressive guilt trip approach and manipulate people. We're all good people in here. We're trying to do a good job at our jobs. We're just trying to get an answer, trying to get things done. And I think that's where most of us live most of the time, right? So we're just trying to take the next step, get a clear answer, move it forward. It's working, right? So things that do work. Now, I realize probably all of you have different email clients and things that you use, but as far as software goes, we use Google pretty much everything. So Google Mail, we're Google Mail based, Google Docs, that kind of thing. So some of the tools in Google that come with that, a lot of these are in Outlook or other CRMs or other things, but Google Active, when you're inside your Google mailbox and you can see when the other person is active, you know what I'm talking about? There's a little green thing that says active to the right under your compressed view. And so you can see when people are active or not, and that's a great time to shoot them a quick email. They're obviously in their email. Shoot them a quick email if you need to get a hold of them. So that's, little things like that. You use mail trackers. There's lots of mail trackers out there. I think it's called mailtracker.io. But you can find out if the email got there, if they read it, when they read it, if they forwarded it or not. My favorite feature in Google is snooze. And this helps me follow people up in a way that sometimes it takes a little bit of time, but let me explain at least how I use it. You all probably have ways to use it. But you can use, and you can also, there's a tool called followup.cc. If you don't have Google or your email client doesn't do this, you can do exactly the same thing with followup.cc. I will send and schedule emails to myself when I need to see things, so I kind of use it as my to-do list. But as it relates to following people up, I will send, let's say, Jody an email asking her to do something. So this would apply to like internally as an employee. Now, it's going to be Jody's job to do it, but it's my job to make sure it gets done, right? I need to know that it's going to be done. Now, I trust Jody to do 100%, but even with Jody, and she knows this, after I send the email about such and such needs to be done in the next day or two, I'll snooze that sent email, right? So the one I've already sent, I'll snooze that email to show back up in my inbox maybe the next Monday. And I'll see that, and I'll know if it's done or not. If it is, I just archive the email and go on to the next. If it's not, I'll follow back up with Jody. Hey, blah, blah, blah. That makes sense how that works as a tool. Sometimes getting in there and using it, you kind of have to. So I use snooze all the time with sales and business development. One of the things you can't do with sales and business development is follow up every single day. And sometimes people will have reasons that they need to wait or, get in touch with me next month or next year, whatever. And so you just snooze and time the emails out to remind yourself to follow up creatively, not just checking in. Please don't ever send that email. Come up with, I saw you in the news. There's some new information that we saw, reminded me of you. I saw a friend of yours. There's 1,000 things you can think of why you need to get back in touch with somebody other than, hey, just checking in, okay? They get those all day long. So anyway, you can snooze those emails, and maybe it's a day or maybe it's a week or whatever. Snooze those emails to regularly check in with the people until you get a clear answer about what they want to do. Yes, we will. No, we won't. We'll do it for this much. Call me in a year. Okay. And then set it for a year. So I've had deals come through where I've faithfully followed up until I got some sort of answer, and then they might say, call me in a year. Okay, I will. So I snooze the email for a year. It'll pop back up in a year, and I will call them. And I've landed plenty of deals that way by waiting that long. That sales cycle is typically not that long, but it happens all the time. So it's the same way with getting other things done. But in sales, we're the ones that want something, right? So really it's on us to just continue to follow. So the snooze feature on Google and the scheduled send feature on Google are fantastic for that. Again, if you don't use Google-based mail, followup.cc, and there's some other ones, are great to use. They cost a little bit, but not too bad. So here's a quick note on tools. There are a lot of tools. There are too many tools. Most tools do way too much, and you don't need a lot of what they do. So really try to simplify your own workflow and what you're comfortable with, and just use the features and the tools that get done what you can do. So for an example, we use Pipedrive as our CRM. Now Pipedrive has a lot of great features, and I could do all the emailing that I'm talking about and snoozing and scheduling inside the CRM, but for me, it's actually a lot more effective just to use a couple of features in Pipedrive and handle all of the other responses inside my email. So I keep track of the deals and the activities inside Pipedrive, and because that will generate reports for me, so I can see, it gives us some meaningful data. Data is only as good as what you put in, or the report's as good as the data you put in, right? So I use that, but I still do all the follow-up by phone and using my email, and then just track it in Pipedrive. Now it is a little bit of an extra step, but overall, the simplicity of how I'm able to do it saves me so much more time than if I just used the tool all in one place. Does that make sense? So you've got all kinds of tools you can use, and piece them together, use them in the simplest way possible that makes sense for you, so that you don't let things fall through the cracks. So snoozing, CRM tools, with various types of pipelines, whatever. Your calendar, some of you may just, there was a time period where everything was just on my calendar, but that got pretty messy. But you can theoretically just use your calendar. Use reminders. You can just tell your phone, hey Google, remind me at 9 p.m. to call Josh. If I can't get a hold of somebody that I really need to talk to, so I've tried email, call, text, and I can't get them, I show up. Here's the thing, I only need a couple minutes. I don't need an hour. So if I really need to get a hold of somebody, I will just show up in their office. Hey, you haven't been answering the calls or texts, thought I'd just come by. Oh, Andy, oh gosh. Man, I've just been so busy, yeah. So the gross absence of manners is true. And I would say the way, just principally that I look at that is a lot of that has to do with the level of relationship and trust, right? So not that you want to take advantage of people that are close trust, but if I send Jody or Josh a text that's like a 1 or 2 word text, which I don't do that very often. It's just, okay, cool, done, yeah, do it, great. That's a kind of cadence and language that we have in that context. I don't have that with new clients. Or with people I don't know very well. So I'm going to use the proper comma or colon at the first of the email. I'm going to type, not more than maybe 2 sentences per paragraph, but a couple of well-spaced paragraphs, sincerely, comma, Andy. I mean, it's going to look professional and nice, and it's going to be tailored to whoever that audience is. And as marketers, we all ought to know that the number one rule is know your audience, right? Know who you're talking to. So that applies in these communications. So you should write the book, April. I mean, here's how to text, here's how to email, and you've got generations, genders, lots of differences these days in what's considered, appropriate or inappropriate or professional or unprofessional. You really have to be cautious that you don't offend people, and it's a little bit of an eggshells game when you don't have a good relation. You don't know. To April's point earlier, generationally, a lot of younger people, a phone call is considered an inconvenience. So you have it's really strange. It's like, so can I call you at 3 o'clock? You can set up an appointment, but we don't like to talk about it. But, I know we live in a much more egalitarian world, and et cetera, yada yada, whatever. The reality is human beings are still human beings, and first impressions, they don't have to be perfect, but they do matter. And it's strange how a good professional person that really, might meet whatever need it is or offer a good product or service, if there is a bad impression, we have a way of pigeonholing them. And you said 3 months. Sometimes it's just like you put them in a box or label forever, yeah. And you've got to really work hard to avoid that, especially if you do have the goods, right? Because the impression may be wrong, but it's going to lock you into a box. And for us, I think it's listening, but that's a piece of what we really are after, which is mutual understanding. So proactively, if we listen well to you, hopefully you'll reciprocate, listen well to us, and we can build that I know that I know that this is what it is, right? We're talking the same language. When the product's sold, service, developed, delivered, whatever,
it matches our understanding that we've had in building. And that takes place largely through listening, right? And somebody usually has to be the leader. Usually in any given relationship, one's going to be a better listener than the other. And